Stalker in the attic. Jerome Kennedy and his wife live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where in 2017 they welcomed the birth of their newborn baby daughter. Fast forward to around the time the child is about 10 months old, and things start to seem a little off. However, not with the Kennedy's daughter. Instead, late at night while in bed, footsteps and other sounds of movement could be heard above them. But the Kennedys did not live in a home that had any tenants on any other floors. Initially, they couldn't confirm the sounds were anything more than creaks, animals on the roof, or other reasonable occurrences. So they kind of just let it go. That was, however, until one day while lying in bed, Jerome spotted a light coming out of the opening of a vent that was connected to a pipe in their bedroom. But not sunlight or anything like that. Light that moved in erratic and unpredictable ways, almost like it was created by a flashlight. Realizing that the vent was actually connected to the home's attic, they decided to take a look inside, where they were surprised to find nothing. The Kennedys' attic was practically just as they had always left it. Still concerned by the light, however, the family decided to put a security camera in the attic just to be safe. And what they managed to capture will shock you. July 17th, 2018, abruptly out of nowhere, the security camera catches a piece of wall of the far side of the attic falling down, and a man crawling inside. This man, 69-year-old Robert Havrilla, the Kennedys' elderly neighbor. It appeared that he had constructed a false wall in the attic where the two homes were connected, so he could crawl through into theirs. The video also captured Havrilla using a drill to punch a hole into the ceiling, where he presumably spied on the husband, wife, and 10-month-old baby for over 25 minutes. Eventually, he crawled his way back out of the attic and replaced the faux wall. Understandably shocked, the Kennedys called the police, and Havrilla was arrested. When questioned, Robert claimed that he never went into the Kennedys' property, and in fact, couldn't even get into his own attic. Clearly though, we don't need a lie detector to know that he isn't being honest. But Havrilla's lawyer would say, "I think it was an innocent situation that is getting drug out longer than it should, but that will come out soon." But the crazy thing is, Havrilla was already going to trial a few months from then for another burglary charge. I guess at 69 years old, this isn't his first rodeo. I can't exactly tell you what evidence or defense was given by Havrilla, but that he would only be found guilty of criminal trespassing. It was a little hard to find information on his sentencing, but I do believe he was sentenced to 5 years of probation and was ordered to pay the Kennedys $2,245 in restitution, presumably so that they could fix the hole in the attic. In addition to this, he was also prohibited from entering his own property unless between the hours of 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., Monday through Friday. I thought this was weird, but it was later explained that this was actually an investment property for Havrilla, and over the 13 years he had owned it, it never even had electricity even one time, leading the court to decide that being at the property any other time of day was unreasonable and would violate a no-contact order the court was assigning between Havrilla and the Kennedys. It has been about 4 years since this sentencing, and I can only hope that Havrilla has kept his distance. CSUN student attacked. On November 28, 2018, Gasij Kajajan was riding a bike to her class at Cal State University Northridge, as she had on many other days. However, this time, she would be approached by a disheveled-looking man. This man, later identified as Peter Way, was just making small talk as they approached the campus. But after arriving, he began to question her, as well as grab her and pull her hair. Gasij would end up calling for help and fleeing into the building where her class was being held, and began filming Way, demanding to know what he wanted and what he was doing. In front of the bystanders and the camera, Way would say, "I'm trying to make love to you." Doesn't that just make your skin crawl? Gasij reaffirms to the camera that she doesn't know who this guy is. For her, he's just some guy who only moments before on the way to school was simply making small talk. But now, she says it almost seemed like he was trying to get revenge on her as he extends his arm and begins to choke her. Quickly thinking, Gasij essentially drops to the ground, letting all of her body weight fall to get out of his grip. At the same time, several bystanders managed to grab Wei and push him away. Now standing in between him and Gesij, they would continue to hold him there, although he appears to be prepared for a fight, until the Cal State Northridge Department of Police Service officers arrested him and determined that he was not even a student at the university. Gesij would end up getting away relatively safely, although she would need a sling for an injury she sustained to her arm and would have visible scratch marks on her neck from the attack. While it is bad enough Wei had attacked Gesij on that day, however, it would also be reported that he had attacked another woman the previous day, grabbing the woman by the neck in what appears to be his MO. He would end up pleading no contest to 2 counts of sexual battery by restraint. This means he accepts the conviction but does not admit guilt, basically just skipping to the sentencing without ever having to go to trial. But to be frank, in my opinion, the admittance of guilt is not really needed in this case. Wei would end up being sentenced to 5 years of probation and would receive a 5-year suspended prison sentence, essentially meaning that if Wei completes his probation successfully without incident, he won't actually have to spend time behind bars. But before you get too upset, he would also have to wear a GPS monitoring device for 1 year, complete a year in a residential mental health program, and register as a sex offender, which is typically branding that lasts for the rest of your life. But still, even with all this, I would have liked to see him in an orange jumpsuit. Robcdee. Robcdee is a popular Twitch live streamer living in Japan. He is what is known as an IRL streamer, and his live streams mainly center around him going out and walking the streets of Tokyo while recording some of the cool, funny, or crazy encounters he has. However, Rob also seems to have an uncanny ability to be in the right place at the right time when it comes to helping someone in need. Because of this, he has been dubbed the Angel of Shibuya. In one of these streams over 3 years ago, Rob was standing on a corner talking to his thousands of viewers when what one may suspect to be a couple is seen walking by. However, something isn't quite right here, as the woman appears to make eye contact with Rob and seems to mouth the words, "Help me." Rob follows her with his camera as she can be seen possibly mouthing something else to him. Before stopping and pointing to Rob, she can be heard informing the man that she had been walking with that Rob was a friend who she had planned to meet. Thankfully, Rob quickly picked up on the situation and started playing along, immediately shaking the man's hand and telling him to have a good night, basically nicely saying, "Thanks for walking her over, now get lost." The man, picking up on the fact Rob is not local to Japan, tries to initiate small talk, asking him where he's from, to which Rob politely replies before attempting to get the man to leave again. I guess finally taking the hint, the man in green walks off back the way he came, and once out of earshot, the woman begins to thank Rob, suggesting that the man had been following her for around 2 days. The chat is also quick to respond, as shortly after the man has begun conversating with Rob, one viewer used the command to play the alert sound effect from Metal Gear Solid, and after he left, another played Angel by Sarah McLachlan. The woman explains that she is a tourist, and when asked if she believed she was in danger, she confirms that yes, she did believe she was. Unfortunately, Shibuya is, dare I say, one of the less safe areas of Tokyo, as it has a relatively high crime rate, and many individuals can be spotted wandering the streets after a night of drinking. I suppose either getting into trouble or starting it. Rob would introduce her to a friend of his working at a shop just behind them, and the two discuss the typical Japanese male style of what he describes as approaching. Although I have never been approached by a Japanese man, nor have I been to Japan, so I guess I'll have to take Rob and this video's word for it. Believe it or not, this is not the first time the Angel of Shibuya has intervened when a man has been following a woman, like this bonus clip from Halloween, when Rob grabs a man and convinces him to take a photo with him, while the woman the man seems to have been pestering vanishes into the crowd. Just another one of the many examples of Rob going out of his way to assist a total stranger, and hopefully making the streets of Shibuya just a little safer. Hey, it's me. Real quick, if you liked the video so far, please please consider liking it to help the algorithm and subscribing to see more content like this. Alright, back to it. White Mercedes Stalker. In southwest Bakersfield, California, a woman went shopping at a local Winco grocery store, as she would have on any normal day. However, after leaving the store, she suddenly realized that a white Mercedes-Benz SUV seemed to be following her. The unidentified woman would drive around for over 30 minutes, this white SUV still behind her the entire time, through every light and turn. It was at this point that she decided to contact her brother-in-law, informing him about her situation, what the car looked like, and the fact that the vehicle appeared to have a Texas license plate. This call was partially captured on a dash cam. As he rushes over to reach her location, the brother-in-law would eventually find them, and after having his sister-in-law turn into a nearby parking lot, would heroically throw himself and his car in front of the white SUV, shouting at the driver out of the window.
You following her?
In a pretty terrific moment of irony, as the white SUV would attempt to leave, the driver would begin to follow him, and after chasing him all the way to a residential area, would eventually lose sight of the driver. What is even more disturbing is this footage from a Chevron gas station in which the woman parks her car and enters the store. Shortly after, the white SUV parks next to her, but the driver never gets out of the vehicle. After the woman returns and drives off, so does the SUV. There isn't exactly a timestamp on this video, but given the fact that she shows no concern over the vehicle, I can only assume that it was before she went shopping at the Winco, meaning this driver found her, waited for her to exit the store, and followed her to the Winco, waiting for her to exit that store, all before following her for an additional 30 minutes. The police would be informed, and likely thanks to the dashcam footage, were able to contact the driver of the SUV, but they ultimately decided no legal action needed to be taken against the driver, both for the fact that the woman who was being pursued did not file any charges against the driver, and the fact that the driver did not have any criminal history regarding things like human trafficking or kidnapping. This is what I would call a disturbing decision, since a person never committing a crime does not mean the same thing as won't commit a crime. But again, since the woman did not file charges, I guess they had no choice but to not consider it a criminal offense. The officers involved in the investigation also remind us that although it may feel more comforting to call a family member in such a position, if you ever find yourself in a similar situation to the woman in this video, it would be better to just call 911. Jacqueline sends 159,000 text messages. So we've been talking a lot about some women or families being stalked, followed, harassed, or attacked by predatory men. And let's be honest, there is an abundance of these. Men, I'm sorry, but with nearly 1 in 3 women experiencing stalking in their lives, and 88% of them reporting their stalker as male, it is what it is. But male stalking victims do happen. That's why for the last story on this list, I would like to introduce you to Jacqueline. Jacqueline was from Miami and was 31 years old at the time of this incident, and while traveling around from Miami to California, she would stop in Arizona where she would meet a local man through a dating app. They would arrange a first date, and she would also spend 3 days at the man's house. However, sometime after this, the man would decide that he did not desire to pursue a relationship with Jacqueline any further. Jacqueline, however, would not accept this, saying that if he ever tried to leave her, she would kill him. She even blatantly told reporters,
I was traveling around and I told him, I was in California, I wanted to stay in California. It was while we were still kind of talking before, because I scared him. So while we were still talking, I told him if he ever blocked me on WhatsApp that I would come and move here. So he blocked me, so I came here.
The victim, while out of the country, would end up seeing Jacqueline in his home through his security system in April, and when officers arrived, they would find her naked, taking a bath. By May, she was showing up at the victim's place of work, claiming to be his wife, presumably attempting to find him or get info from his coworkers. This thankfully ended in her arrest, in which she would have to face the courts for her repeated trespassing and harassment of the victim. But the story does not exactly end there, as it was discovered that she had sent the victim somewhere around 65,000 to 159,000 text messages. If she had sent a single text message every second, on the high end, it would still have taken her around 44 hours to send all of them. These, of course, were sent over the course of about 5 months. But the subject of these texts is, let's say, graphic, including threats of violence, her plans to murder him, bathe in his blood, wear his skull, and more. A couple of reporters were able to interview her in what I would describe as a very interesting 18 minutes. Here are a few points of interest. Initially, to start, she describes how she had discovered the equation of love and how she had gone through a spiritual journey traveling across the country hunting down the number 3, as she believed 3 represented love in the equation.
Love equals 3.3, which is infinity, times E equals MC squared, which is light. Light is forever. L equals 3. L, if love was a number, it would be 3. So it's infinity times light, which is also infinity. So it's just forward, forever forward. And if you're selfish, you can't understand that.
When asked if she was angry with the man, she replied,
No! Oh my God, no, I love him so much. I just want to love him so much, that's it. And if he doesn't like it, then I'll go home and I'll love my ex-boyfriend. What am I supposed to do?
When confronted about the fact that many thought her actions were weird, she said those people were selfish and have never loved anyone without getting anything in return. When asked if there was anything she wanted the victim to know, she said that she wanted him to know that she loved him and that she would leave him alone if he asked her to.
Are you going to leave him alone?
If he wants me to.
Has he asked you to leave him alone?
I don't want to talk about those things.
I think it's fair to say this sounds like a woman with some issues that she needs addressed by a professional. And it would seem that the courts would agree when Jacqueline's charges ended up being dismissed after they decided that she was mentally incompetent. Instead of jail, she was taken to Valley Wise Behavioral Health Center for a few weeks before returning back home to Florida with her parents, where she would continue to receive mental health treatments. In my opinion, this was hopefully the right decision. Well, that's it for now. Be sure to like the video to help the algorithm and subscribe to see more content like this. If you enjoyed this video, why not check out this one, where I talk about shocking crimes inspired by movies. I'll see you next time.